Oh, show me your tits.
Your Marge is so Grover. I'm not going to be able to watch Sesame Street without getting hard.
Yeah, I want to make you come.
Or Fat Albert. That might also.
I want to make you come.
Or Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, what a wonderful world to make you come. Hey, hey, hey.
And my tits are waiting for you.
I see D's of skin color.
Is this a cold open? This is the most confusing, long cold open. Can we just go back to talking about how your grandma is dying?
Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
I realized that I had written still Fan Expo on this note, and so it kind of fucked me for a second there.
Yeah, because we're not there. And as we know, you live and die by the script. Even though you keep insisting you could do without.
I could, but it's seeing the wrong thing that fucks me up.
Sure.
I do it all the time.
I would love to see you go no script.
One episode, no script.
Episode.
We'll make up the questions.
We'll call the episode No Script.
Yeah, and I have to make up the questions.
Yes, yeah. Do you know, I kind of like it.
We're going off book.
I don't hate that idea.
Yeah. John Spees says.
Yeah, just assume, like, what kind of question would
he ask? Yeah. Oh, I mean, I could do it for Stump.
Yeah. What's the deal?
Yeah. A really easy one.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a 3-page monologue for Chad Bokelman. Yeah, listen to our podcast. We're great. We're nice to people.
We're good to our fans.
Yeah, we talk shit about you if you've listened for too long.
You know.
That's how you know you're part of the family.
I only roast the ones we love.
By the way, did you see the Dungeons and Dragons Fast and the Furious TikTok I sent you today?
No, because I just haven't been on TikTok that much.
These two guys decided they were going to do a campaign together,
But like a Fast and Furious campaign?
Well, they made the characters look like Dom and Brian.
I love that.
And then they tried to make it was like, what if it's a future Fast and the Furious movie where the guys go back, they're like Jumanji style, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons together and get sucked into that world.
God, I love that.
And so now they're trying to play it and make decisions based on those things.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's called Two Dungeons, Two Dragons.
Oh. Which is ironic because Vin's not in that.
Brian's not in that.
No.
Brian is in that.
Yeah.
Vin's not in
Vin's
that.
not in that.
But anyways, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
I do like that.
So, each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Baby.
This episode, we're talking about George Reeves.
Yeah, so...
which, I'll be honest, right now, did not know that George Reeves was Christopher Reeves' father, let alone
he was.
They were not related?
No. Because he's George Reeves, and then Christopher Reeve is Christopher Reeve.
Oh, that's even weirder.
It is slightly weirder, yeah.
That's weirder. I just assumed, and then I was looking at it, and I was like, wait.
Yeah, no.
That's the same last name.
So, listen, I put a few things up, because this week and next week are both selected themes from our Golden Age patrons.
You fucking little greedy bastards.
And both of them are Superman related.
I mean,
this week we're talking about George Reeves, the old 50s Adventures of Superman TV show.
Yeah.
Which ran way longer than you might think. It had like over 100 episodes.
Really?
Yeah.
But are the episodes like full episodes?
Like
or?
half an hour? Yeah.
Wow.
My dad is obsessed with this
Really?
show. We bought him all like the DVD sets like years ago. He loves George Reeves' Adventures
But that's
of
before
Superman.
his time, right?
I mean, technically, but they must have been running
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
reruns or something like that, because he
The way we used to see like Leave It to Beaver when we were kids and stuff, right? Like,
well, yeah, or even just stuff that came out 5 years earlier. Yeah,
sure, yeah.
But at any rate, we're talking about that this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the film universe of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, which actually also includes Brandon Routh's Superman Returns,
because it's technically
technically a sequel to.
But they don't have a
Superman
name
2.
for it. That's not the Reevaverse. So
Yeah. So the next 2 weeks are Superman on screen in different ways.
In ways that we've never really talked about, especially this week.
Now, have you ever watched any of the old Adventures of Superman?
Not a single episode. I've seen like clips,
Right.
And I know like I've seen the visual,
Yeah.
and like on YouTube, I'm sure I've seen like especially more of like that guy, like George doing like commercials is what I've more seen.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like Superman's here and he's here to talk about why you should smoke tobacco.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, and George Reeves, he was in Gone with the Wind. He's an actor. He's
Sure.
in other things, but then that show, for people that listen to us, you might also know the theme as what would lead us out of ads when we had ads.
Oh yeah,
That's the Adventures of Superman theme.
Well, there you go.
They're like,
Yeah. Wow, is that really what that's from? Did they use it for anything else?
well, no, they didn't. But
Because why do I know that that's the Superman song?
Well, you're also conflating it, I think, with other Superman songs that riff on it. No, you're singing something different. Just a sec. Just wait. Here, I gotta play this for you, and you'll hear it. If you feel like it, you could put a better audio in the episode over this.
I certainly will. I'm glad that you're doing this so seamlessly. You're doing.
This is an ad.
Oh yeah, they can't hear it anyways. I'm glad that you're doing this. They need to know what deals Pizza Hut has.
It's an ad. Just wait.
Cool. No. This is good. This is great content.
Fucking wait.
Cool. Love this part. Oh
It's
yeah,
the same ad again.
I'm so glad we waited for that. This is good podcasting. This is almost as good as when you only brought crunchy food to an audio medium. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Yes.
More powerful than a locomotive.
Different song.
Yes. But, riffing on the same thing.
I think that what I think
every time someone writes a new theme for Superman, they're like, what were the theme? And they, everyone's riffing on a riff of a riff a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all I know is basically like beating your kids is great. Use this Superman paddle.
Yeah, that sounds like an ad he would have done.
I mean, is it not?
George Reeves was a nice guy. He's a good. Well,
yeah, but is that one? Everyone back then is bad.
You sure? I caught myself.
Yeah. Superman peanut butter.
Man, Superman peanut butter. I fucking wish.
Best commercial ever.
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, this is probably an artifact that not too many, like younger, newer DC fans,
I would say most DC
know
fans,
much
period.
about. I got to assume it's on Max, if anyone's still on Max.
Oh my
but
God, would it be really? That would be crazy.
might be. I couldn't find it on Prime, which leads me to believe it's on something more exclusive.
My guess is it's just not online.
Could be, but they do sell DVD box sets. Like I said, we bought them all for my dad.
Yeah,
years
but that
ago
feels
and
like a
stuff.
DVD box set thing more than it's something worth a company paying for.
I mean, in the modern era of the Zaslav, Warner's thing, you're right. But if it wasn't for that, I would maybe expect to find it on there.
Yeah, I think you can only pay for it, and because it's on Google, you can rent it on Amazon, Google Play, Vudu, and Iva.
It wasn't even on Prime for me to rent. That was the thing. I went to go try to find it.
Maybe it's only on American Prime.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, like this is the...
So I think it's an artifact maybe not everyone knows about, but it also, George Reeves has a little bit of like Hollywood legend around him that is not 100% about Superman, but
Sure.
it's sort of tangentially connected. So it's sort of like an interesting thing to talk about. So we got a few questions about this.
Yes.
We should just dive right in, I think.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with Facebook.
Go and do the face and the book. Go and do the Facebook.
The question from Facebook.
Wait, sorry. We have an ad from Pizza Hut first.
Yeah. Yes, George Reeves here to talk about Pizza Hut.
Yeah, beat your kids, stuffed crust style.
You stuffed.
Slandering George Reeves' name by making him just the spokesperson for beating kids.
Look, I'm sure if we look close enough at George Reeves, there's something there.
I mean, there's the unsolved death.
Pardon?
His unsolved death.
Oh, yes. I thought he was a suicide.
Well, that's what they want you to think.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I heard Buzz Aldrin did it.
Yeah, that's right. Joke from another podcast.
You got to listen to both.
Everything's a crossover.
Absolutely. Well, we're not talking about carrots in this question. We're talking about John's peas.
Oh, there we go.
You didn't know where I was going.
I was concerned, frankly. Yeah.
If they had made a movie for this show, what would you have wanted the plot to be?
I think the important thing, like the context for that question, is that, you know, they did 100-something episodes. That's like 5 seasons.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to remember that like the first 3 or maybe even 4 seasons were in black and white, and then the last 1 or 2 were in color. Also, in all the early seasons, it was truly just Superman versus crooks.
Sure.
Just like a guy in a suit being like, "This is my town, see?" Or like whatever. And then Superman would like bend a bar around him and be like, "Dang it, Superman!" Like, and like that was it, you know? Like,
yeah.
And then in the later seasons, there's a little more sci-fi. You know, as the show went along. I mean, even in season 2, they were using kryptonite and stuff like that. But it was like gangsters got their hands on kryptonite.
Sure.
It wasn't like Luthor. It wasn't like anything like that. But later seasons got a little more sci-fi-y. But I think if they made a movie of it, I'd want to stay true to like what the bulk of that show is, which is like Superman versus gangsters. Which in a way, even though the show came out in the 50s, that's a very golden age.
Yeah.
Feeling Superman, you know, like Silver Age Superman is like off in space talking to Gleep Glorp or whoever the fuck and like doing shit like that. But like in the Golden Age, Superman like kicks down the governor's door. He's like, "You're gonna make sure that this bill gets through," or whatever the fuck.
Can you shoot fucking lasers out of your eyes?
You know, like there's like, well, and George Reeves Superman didn't have
any of those.
All the
he could fly and punch, right?
He had some, you know, and he'd use some powers in different things, but like it wasn't like the whole suite of like superpowers, you know what I mean?
Have you watched all the 100 episodes?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, not recently. I have seen all of them.
Wow.
In the lead up to this, I've rewatched maybe 4 or 5, just sort of select episodes through the thing.
Wow.
But
so you wouldn't want to be Superman versus the Mafia?
No, I mean, there's a fun thing where it's like maybe a little sci-fi. I mean, there's the Kirk Allen movie that came out in 1951 or just before this or whatever. That's Superman versus the Mole Men, which was a sort of like kind of sci-fi thing.
Sure.
That's fun. But I think if they made a George Reeves Superman, I'd want it to be like crooks and like, yeah, fine. They can like a scientist makes kryptonite for them or something.
You find out that one of the crooks' name is Matches Malone.
Oh my God. But you know what I mean? Like, I think there's something I liked about that, about him balancing being Clark and getting the story and Lois trying to scoop him all the time. Like,
there's definitely a thinner line between crime and between superhero and reporter when all of your like criminals are like mobsters and like political people. Like, it makes a lot more sense. Like with Peter Parker, it's like, well, yeah, he's like in town fighting like local crime. When you're dealing with like space, it's like, why did Clark know what happened on Gleep?
Yeah. Why is there a page 3 spread from Daily Planet reporter Clark Kent?
Yeah.
About Alpha Centauri. Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think I'd want it to be something like that. I don't have an idea for a specific plot, but I like that idea of like, because what was the fun stuff on the show? It was watching him like grab a gun and smush it, like, or like bend jail bars open, like all those, like the things that they could do, practical effects that he would just show up and that's how strong he was. It wasn't like he wasn't like lifting a mountain. He was always just like prying doors open or like pushing a wall over or something like that. So any story that kind of keeps along those lines, I think is fun. And there's still things baked in to crime and like mob things that you could still use in a Superman story for that era. Like they lock him in a bank vault or something, and the vault is lead, so he can't see out, and they trick him. They do something, like there's stuff like that you could do in the logic of that show.
Yeah,
that I think works and would work in a movie.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, at the end of the day, like most of the movies that are about Superman are more of that level anyways. Like we didn't really get sci-fi until very recently.
You'd need a lot more kind of work done on like Jimmy and Lois.
Sure.
Like Lois is good on that show. I like her in there, but it's always, those episodes are half an hour long. You maybe get 7 minutes of Lois and Jimmy. I think you'd have to up their proportion of the story.
Yeah.
In a, and Perry too. Like Perry's hilarious on that show. They're always like, oh, Clark's missing. He's like, I don't give a shit if he's missing. I need a story. He's like Perry is so like insensitive all the time in that show.
And that's so not of the era.
Yeah. Could you imagine an insensitive newspaper editor? But yeah, I think that's what I'd want from it. Totally. I wouldn't want actual Silver Age stuff, even though it would be in the 50s. I'd want like Golden Age Superman.
Would you want like a now to come out movie set in that time?
Not set in that time, but there's something about some of the sense of this is not me. I'm not. This is not a Make America Great Again.
There's just like things were better.
They just
back
had
then.
the right idea. Yeah. No, what I mean is,
I want my Superman to be of that era.
What I mean is, there's something. I think it just boils down to the stuff that is fun in this is watching Superman just stop little kind of meaningless crimes almost. I say meaningless, like there's still mobsters and stuff like that, but it's not a alien invasion or like but this is the weird dynamic with Superman movies though, because now I'm thinking about it, it's like actually the problem with Superman movies is we spend too much time
doing fucking sci-fi shit
on people stuff and not enough.
Oh, see, I think it's a reverse.
No, but it's not at all.
I want people stuff.
No, the problem is the only alien stuff we get is fucking Krypton all the time. But like, where is Brainiac? Where is, Mongol? Where is... I mean, this
is also inherently the thing of you like and I like about Superman.
There are Earthbound Superman villains that we don't even get to, like Parasite or shit like that would be like interesting to see in a thing. But there's something that I enjoy about Superman saving the day. And like, when was the last time we actually saw Superman like save someone that wasn't part of the plot?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like the Christopher Reeve movies, I know that's next week, but like they have that shit in there.
And that's what I like about the Flash in like Justice League and stuff like that, right? Like dealing with like little things, right?
Sure, yeah. So I think there's something to be said about the kind of something a bit more quaint for Superman.
Totally.
Like, it doesn't work all the time, but there's something about that is fun in this show that I like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
The question from Instagram comes from Mara in Iowa. Wonder where they live.
Iowa.
Oh, fuck.
You
yeah.
Idiot.
Oh, stupid. Who asks, okay, I'll ask the big one.
Ooh, here we go.
Oh, my God. What really happened to George Reeves?
Yeah, I mean, fuck.
I saw that movie with Ben Affleck, which was actually pretty good, and they left it up in the air. Also, how do you feel Lois Lane was treated in the show? What do you mean? What's the movie with Ben Affleck?
Hollywoodland.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Hollywoodland is a movie with Adrian Brody playing a private investigator, loosely based on a real guy. And Ben Affleck plays George Reeves in that movie. And so there's all these. Have you ever seen the picture online of him dressed in like an old timey Superman costume? 'Cause that's from that movie.
Oh no.
Yeah. So listen, I am not an expert on this situation. Sure. Broad strokes. George Reeves died, and it was ruled a suicide. But then there were a bunch of sort of. I think it is likely that it was, in fact, a suicide. He was unhappy about his career because the Superman thing really pigeonholed him.
Sure.
And he wasn't getting the roles that he wanted. He was upset. His marriage, I think, was pretty rough. Like, I think, his wife was having an affair, but also he was having an affair.
Sure.
The person he was having an affair with was related to like a studio head with mob ties or something like that.
And I guess that's where a lot of the suspicion probably comes from.
So it starts feeding into these things. And then the other thing was they didn't like dust for fingerprints or whatever on the gun, and they didn't blah, blah, blah. And then some reports were that the wife was upstairs when the gun went off, and then she came down and said, I wasn't there, or something like that. Like, there's all these, like, circumstantial, not really, like, you can't give them too much weight kind of things. I think more likely than not, George Reeves killed himself. I think second most likely is mob hit.
Sure, yeah.
That's not a crazy leap.
Sure.
There was also something about how many bullets were fired, but they only heard one shot.
Weird.
But they found more bullets or something. There was some weird other, again, circumstantial, possibly just spurious rumors.
Sure.
So in the movie, what they do is they sort of just present three scenarios and don't settle on one.
Okay.
So they present a scenario where it's a suicide. They present a scenario where he and his wife, it's an accident. She accidentally kills him. And they present a mob hit scenario.
Like, is it just like cops talking about what could have happened kind of thing?
Well, it's Adrian Brody trying to uncover it in the flashbacks. And you kind of like, it's done very dramatically. But
yeah.
I actually have a friend who's in that movie. But
nice.
It's quite good. But they don't, they don't come down on like, we think it's this.
They don't like lean towards
No,
it.
and I actually think it's wiser that way because truly it became this sort of Hollywood thing because the rumors, the conspiracy theories, all the stuff about George Reeves, it really kind of spiraled. It's still technically this big sort of unsolved thing. I think good money is on he killed himself.
Yeah.
Which is, unfortunate. But I would not rule out mob hit.
Sure.
And you know me, I don't like really subscribe to conspiracy things, but like
it doesn't not point to that.
It doesn't not, you know? Yeah.
All right. Well,
and how do I feel about Lois on the show?
Yeah.
So, totally unrelated question. I like Lois on the show.
Yeah, you were saying.
But I don't necessarily think the show always likes Lois.
Interesting.
I think when there are these little opportunities for that actor whose name I don't remember, I think she does a great job of embracing Lois characteristics.
Yeah.
I rewatched an episode today where Jimmy picks up like a note from the front desk for Clark, and it's about a scoop. And he goes to put it, and Lois is like, "Oh, I'll put it on his desk." And she goes, and she reads it, and then just rips it up and throws it in the trash can. So she's gonna like, that's that like Clark's got too many stories on me. There's a kind of like. She plays the sassy, brassy, like, I'm going to one-up him on the story kind of thing that I enjoy. And I think she's good at that. But then there's also these moments like, oh no, Superman.
Yeah.
And I think it just depends on what episode you're watching and what they had her do. You know what I mean? Like, so I think the show is slightly inconsistent about its feeling for Lois, but that actor is great.
Sure.
She's a very good Lois. I like her a lot.
With a better, maybe consistent script, it would probably be better.
I think so. I think that's kind of where my perspective is on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Well, let's move on from Instagram and go over to Reddit.
Where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
Correctamundo.
Cool.
Trying a new thing out.
That was nice. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, almost 400 episodes. Time to do something new.
Look, that's, you try to get a 7-year itch.
Yeah.
Gotta keep things interesting.
12-inch stuffed crust for $7.99. Get 4 toppings.
You give yourself
For
the
$7.99. God, I'd be so bad at running a business.
give yourself the energy so you can beat your kids.
It's me, Superman.
So first question from Reddit comes from According Art 482.
Okay.
Who asks, is Adventures of Superman any good?
I think it's a lot of fun.
Sure. In like a fun old-timey kind of way?
I actually like the later season stuff, like the in color stuff, less
Really?
than the cheaper,
Like black
worse
and white.
black and white stuff. I just think it's so goddamn charming. Like,
Is it a lot of like him laying on a table with like wind, like a fan blowing in front of him kind of stuff?
yes,
Yeah.
and you like, so let's say he's in the Daily Planet. He'd always go into like the closet to change into Superman
Sure.
outfit, and then he'd run down a hall, and you'd always see him jump up, hit something, and then leap out of frame, and then you'd cut to the green screen table flying.
Love that.
But it's because there was like a spring thing in the floor always, so he could get a takeoff.
Sure.
So Superman's takeoff is like watching the triple jump. Like he does like a couple of hops like onto
That's
this
very
thing or whatever.
funny.
I find that very charming. He's so charming. A sort of classic like ending format for like the end of an episode would be they'd be wrapping something up and they'd be like Lois would be like, I can't believe Superman managed to save us again, or whatever. Like, Clark, you would never do that. And he'd be like, oh, I don't know, Lois, I'm pretty out of this world. And he'd like kind of look at
Christ.
the camera, like circle
Like a
white,
fucking Leviathan pretending that it doesn't want to eat people.
It's but he was so fucking charming. And you know how we keep talking about a chunky Superman?
Yeah.
But even more him as Clark. That's the fucking Superman you've been looking for.
Yeah.
Like his look in that suit, he looks straight off a comic page from the 40s. You know, the really wide shoulders, the double suit, the hat.
I love that. That's exactly the type of shit that I want, right? Like I want that classic.
He's like certainly
golden
in
age.
looks and I think also general demeanor.
Is that golden age.
He's very much your kind of
Hell yeah.
Superman.
I love that. I just need some like very like melancholic, like introverted episodes.
Yeah, you're not going to get too much of that on this show because it was a kids show in the 50s.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
Jimmy is such like Jimmy's so fucking useless, but very kind of funny. Perry is like comically unaware that Clark is Superman, which
Like to a prop-
even more than Lois and Jimmy.
Sure.
It's like you kind of at a certain point you watch it, you go like Perry should figure this out.
Aren't you a reporter?
There's one episode I think there's a question about it. We'll talk about it in a bit where Superman loses his memory. And he's walking around as Clark, but he doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know that he's Superman. And all through the episode, they're like, Superman's missing. Where's Clark? And then they find Clark, and they're like, Superman's still missing, and Clark has no memory. And they go like,
Jesus
no one puts it together. It's just very funny. If you mean good to mean anything other than enjoyable, no.
Yeah, like is it a quality
It's
made product?
cheaply made, and it's, the stories
it's
aren't
charming and endearing.
It's
yeah.
a kids show from the 50s. The stories aren't complex. The things aren't
They're not
crazy.
addressing big
It's
things,
not
yeah.
like amazing action things, but it's fun, it's sweet, it's charming. I think he's a great Superman.
Yeah.
She's a great Lois. Yeah, it's just like a fun little adventure.
Sure.
Like I watched a couple today with my kid and she liked them.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've ever watched something like that old.
Yeah.
I mean, we've watched like old Disney cartoons,
but not like black and white
animation.
stuff.
But also
Yeah.
animation is animation. It's different to watch something like cheap and old, like
Yes.
live action. She loved it. Like it's no difference to her, right? So she was watching. She's like, "Oh, Superman's flying to get it!" And like it's just him clearly lying down
Yes,
on his
yes.
stomach. Like someone off screen flapping his cape. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, she loved it. So that was a lot of fun for me, even just today doing that.
Totally.
So yeah, it's totally worth it. Definitely good. Definitely you should check it out.
Yeah. So next question comes from Hello Goodbye Oh God.
Okay. Creepy.
Yep. Are Kirk Allen and George Reeves the same version of Superman? I know they share the same Lois Lane actress, but are their movies and series actually connected?
Right. So Kirk Allen played Superman in that Superman and the Mole Men, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Which is like if it's not a feature, it's just a very long serial.
Sure.
And yeah, it's the same actor that played Lois in both that and then the Adventures of Superman show.
Okay.
But obviously, Superman got recast as George Reeves. We live in a different world now.
Yeah, they're not thinking about universes.
This is that's the hard thing with these questions always. If you, like, with a clever wink acknowledging that it's the same Lois, ever got control of a Superman property and wanted to make that one thing, you could do it, and that's a easy justification. That's a fun little, like, Easter eggy thing you can do. But I think there's very little specifically to point to that being the case. Like, I'm positive they don't mention the Mole Men outside of the Mole Men thing. You know what I mean? They don't even say, like, even in the show, they don't go like, oh, that guy from last week. Like,
yes.
It's totally episodic, you know, like, so I'd be tempted to say no, but again, they weren't thinking of stuff that way, but they also weren't, but it goes both ways. They weren't thinking of it that way where it's like, we need to make these things connected. So they weren't connected. But they also weren't thinking of it the other way where it's like, fuck, we cast another Superman. These are different universes.
No.
They weren't doing either.
It's like it's more Superman.
They weren't doing either of those. They were just making Superman stories. If they had just kept Kirk Allen, then you just go like, I guess these are all the same. But not because of anything in the writing, just because it would just be easier to assume it. You know what I mean?
See, like, any of the other characters in that?
I think Lois might be the only one that's the same in both.
Sure.
But to be honest, I haven't seen Superman and the Mole Men in a while. So that one
maybe, but
dubious.
Sure.
But I think Lois is really the only one there. But still,
which is rare for, like, if it's a movie, like, that's rare.
Well, but I mean, I think that is maybe some justification for the idea that they were like, well, that was a great movie, let's make a show of it. And then whatever happened, Kirk Allen didn't want to do it, or they decided they wanted someone else, or whatever. That might be the only justification for it, is that they didn't just whole hog change everything.
Sure.
But really, in any kind of, like, functional way, no, they're not the same.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Dirty Boy Toy 42069.
42069 42069.
Yeah.
Nice. Sorry, what was the name again?
Dirty Boy Toy.
Boy Toy. Right, fuck. Yeah, I remember seeing that one. Dirty Boy Toy 42069. Reddit really is just like a beautiful place.
Is it true the thing from the Affleck movie where a kid tried to shoot George Reeves?
Yes. So it's a scene in Hollywoodland. They recreate this moment that's very kind of famous. It's kind of got like a urban legend status, but it's true. Mm-hmm. So George Reeves was Superman on TV, and kids grew up watching George Reeves as Superman, and he would make appearances in that. And like you were talking about seeing maybe ads or stuff, but like he was Superman. He'd make appearances at parades or at he was Superman for that entire generation. And there is this story of him going to, I can't remember if it's a birthday party or what it was, but him making an appearance as Superman. Mm-hmm. and this kid pulls a gun on him.
Like a real gun?
Yeah, like goes because it's the 50s, so it's like you better.
It was just sitting on the dining room
yeah,
table.
it was just next to the forks
Yeah.
in the drawer. This kid brings a gun out and he goes, "You're invulnerable.
Oh
I
my
want to see.
God.
I want to see you be Superman."
Oh my
and
God.
George Reeves talks this kid out of it. Like he handles it in character as Superman. He doesn't go like, "Fuck," and like run away or like he as
Jesus.
Superman. Like for this kid who truly believes he's Superman, talks him out of it by basically explaining that the bullets could ricochet and hurt someone else, and he gets the kid to hand the gun over. But this kid almost fucking shot George Reeves.
I don't know if you've seen my commercial, but you're gonna get something if you do.
I was
this.
going to say something darker, but like, give me the gun. I'll do it.
Oh my God! Holy shit! Oh my. That's not how you kill me.
Yeah, I'll show you how you kill me.
Oh my God!
That's the fourth scene in
Yeah.
Hollywood
Yeah,
land.
it's a
The
deleted
kid
scene.
tracks him down and kills him. But no, that was like a real thing that happened. And the
Holy
crazy,
shit.
but this was part of like the sort of the legend of George Reeves a little bit, is that where he wouldn't just go like, "I'm not really Superman." Like he was like, he stayed in it for this kid,
Yeah.
you know, and like was Superman and did what Superman would do and just gently talked him out of it and diffused this. Like it's sort of,
There is a thing with like some Superman actors too, where they like I think
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve did that too. Like
I
tried
mean,
to
not that
portray.
specific.
Yeah. No, the kid
Just-
shot him. That's actually
Yeah,
what happened.
Walk
to
up and down the street looking for a kid with a gun. Any kid with a gun would do.
That's actually what happened to Christopher Reeve.
No, that was a horse with a
He
gun.
got shot.
That was. But no, I think you're right. There's certainly Christopher Reeve, I think, felt the responsibility of being Superman and wanting to live up to
Yeah.
a character as good and as sort of idealistic as Superman. And you see him in interviews, and then you really, that comes across very clearly.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that for George Reeves too, even though he had this sort of, in the way that a lot of actors who get too famous on something very specific, there's a sort of pushback, right? Shatner and Nimoy both had it with their characters, and then eventually we're like, I owe everything to that, and came back around to it. But you know, people have these things where they want to distance themselves from a thing.
They want to be more than that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And some people manage to be more than that, but still have that, like Harrison. Like, don't ask Harrison Ford about Han Solo. Like, you know,
Daniel Radcliffe, like, it's a great example. Yeah.
totally. And that is such a thing. The thing with George Reeves is he didn't live long enough to come back around, and his career didn't survive in the way to allow him to move past that phase.
Yeah.
Because like truly, he was getting turned down because they're like, you do Superman, you're like a kid's thing. Like, because it's the 50s. They go like, that means you couldn't possibly act, even though you were in Gone with the Wind.
So, like, that was a black and white movie, though. You couldn't be in a color movie.
I don't know nothing about making no movies. Gone with the Wind.
Oh, yeah.
So I think a lot of things sort of, I'm using the word conspire. That's not what I mean. A lot of things conspired against George Reeves in that way. But I do love that story with the kid, because that is one of those kind of shining moments of like, well, that's why he's Superman.
Totally.
You know, and I think that's really something. They do a good job of that in the movie too, actually. Ben Affleck plays that scene really well.
Yeah, I think he would have made a
Yeah.
decent Superman.
Yeah. Oh, like you just mean Ben Affleck?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he would have made a good that Superman.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
All right, let's leave Reddit and head on over to the doc scored.
Fuck.
The doc scored.
Just fucking let me get there.
That's true. It's the first time we've ever done this, so you're never prepared.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
It's a docs that scored. And don't worry, I waited until Lizzo was problematic.
Yeah.
To bust
To really
that
do
one out.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Never trust, never love. All your idols will fail you.
Yes, they're all bad.
Except Taylor Swift.
They're all They're all guilty until proven innocent.
We're gonna hear in like 3 months Taylor Swift like wiped out some sort of like Amazon previously uncontacted Amazon tribe or something.
Look,
be like, it was crucial for the Eras tour that I deforest a bunch of land.
It's for girl power.
Yeah. Don't you get it? Jake Gyllenhaal was mean to me.
Yeah, fuck him and his
I don't
scarf.
know why I'm going anti-Taylor Swift. I'm so on board with her. But,
yeah, I know.
But if the trend of people that we think are good being bad continues, I think that's what we're in for.
Yep, 1,000%.
Yeah. Taylor Swift shot down the plane that Prigozhin was on. She's working for Putin.
Just her and Seagal.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that's a team up I wanted. Sorry. So many tangents.
Yeah.
Have you seen that thing that's been circling the internet lately? People have dug up from 20 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. Seagal put out like a reggaeton album.
No.
Where the first line of his in one song is "Mi Wanda Punani."
Oh my god!
I'll find it for you. It's pretty incredible.
Holy shit!
It's amazing.
Like, is he just like so far canceled now that it just doesn't even like? It's not even a conversation.
I mean, my wife went on a boat tour in Louisiana where they pointed at Seagal's house and they were like, yeah, they found that he was keeping a bunch of women as sex slaves in the basement. Anyway, and they just kept going.
What? How is that not more of a conversation?
I think because Steven Seagal's not more of a person of interest.
I guess. Weird.
I don't know.
First question.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right, but I don't know.
First question from the dog square.
Yeah. Who killed Prigozhin? I can't wait to listen back to this episode in 3 years and forget who Prigozhin was.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
From Q Continuum Consort, they ask, please rank the Reeves. George, Christopher, Keanu, and Steve.
Who's Steve Reeves?
Great.
You look that up quick, and then I'll think about my rankings here.
Steve,
I also don't know.
American bodybuilder Steve Reeves.
Oh, okay.
Was Hercules.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
We're just doing overall ratings, eh? We're not saying like
rank them
because we're not even saying like best. We're just saying rank them
in some category
for overall.
Yeah.
Keanu's probably top.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves just
good, seemingly good person.
Yeah, unless he's like personally mining blood diamonds or something.
Who's to say?
Yeah. He was propping up Idi Amin.
Yeah. He was also friends with Danny Masterson.
Yeah, he wrote a letter.
Yeah.
Man, that. Sorry, another tangent because I have to.
Okay.
Because I also have ADHD.
Yeah, and are on TikTok.
And yeah, so the Danny Masterson.
Yeah.
And then the thing about Ashton and Mila
Yes.
having written those letters.
Yes.
But then I saw this other thing where someone
The connection to the murder.
Someone wrote a comment that was like, I was there on February
Yes.
whatever. I saw what you did.
Yes.
I heard what you said on the tape, Ashton.
Yes.
I know what you like what the fuck was that 70s show?
I truly, and everyone's just like, what's his name? The fucking main guy from that 70s show.
Oh, yeah, Topher Grace.
Yeah, I always want to call him Toby Maguire. It's Topher Grace.
Grace. Yeah.
Topher Grace was we're finding out that he was just like, I don't want anything to do with any of this. Like,
I mean, Jesus.
Like he just stayed away from everybody and did his own thing.
I mean, better than participating, worse than stopping whatever was happening.
Well, maybe he just didn't know.
Also fair, but Jesus.
I mean, they all did find out that Mila Kunis was 14, and we're cool with that.
That whole show, like, Jesus. At any rate, that's all happening. I think Keanu Reeves.
Back to comic books.
Keanu Reeves is my top.
Yeah.
Reeves.
Okay.
Probably second is Christopher Reeve.
Sure.
He just seemed like he seemed so insightful and literate and compassionate
Sure.
and honest. Like, have you seen those interviews where he's just like, they're like, what was it like working with Marlon Brando? He's like, I don't know. It kind of felt like he gave up. And then he's like,
Wow.
Brando's a hero of mine, but like, isn't it sad to see someone just not try anymore?
I mean, that's also the thing with Brando at the end.
well,
Like,
but that wasn't even the end. That was 78.
was that after?
It was like right around the movie.
Really?
Yeah, and Christopher Reeves like doing this on the talk show circuit and shit. And he's just like, I love him to death. I admire him, but like, it sucks to watch someone that good phone it in. He was
Yeah.
like,
I don't know what this
Reeve,
Godfather is going to be, but
yeah, I'm sure it's nothing.
yeah.
But he just seemed like such a kind of a sort of kind soul, and that he really embodied all that Superman stuff. So I think he's way up
Okay,
there.
number 2.
So he's number 2.
Yeah.
Keanu, Christopher,
Then I'm assuming George, then Steve.
George, because of the conversations we've had thus far.
Yeah. And Steve,
because I barely knew who he was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, next question from Only Just Dandon, who asks, I think the episode Panic in the Sky is one of the best Superman stories ever. Have you seen it? Do you agree?
So, Panic in the Sky is this episode that I mentioned briefly earlier, where there is a meteor headed towards Earth, and Superman flies up, and he stops the meteor and basically, instead of like knocking it away, he manages to put it into a stable orbit.
Interesting.
But when he lands, it's like either the radiation or the impact or whatever, Superman loses his memory. He doesn't know who he is. He runs a little bit on instinct, like he manages to find Clark's apartment. But he doesn't know who he is, and they're like, "You're Clark," and he's like, "Okay." And then Perry's like, "Where's that story, Kent?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "I don't believe you. You're faking," which is so fucking silly. Jimmy keeps checking up on him, but Superman doesn't show up, and this meteor starts causing, because now it's in orbit, it starts causing tidal waves and storms, and it starts fucking up the world, and Superman is nowhere to be found. And this amnesiac, not quite Clark, goes, someone has to do something, and he accidentally finds the Superman uniform, and he goes, maybe the uniform gives Superman his powers? Maybe I could be Superman? Like, he kind of like becomes Superman again that way, and he puts the suit on, and he doesn't feel anything, and he accidentally breaks a table with his super strength, and he goes, maybe
it is the suit.
And then he goes and saves the day, and then he ends up getting his memory back at the end of it.
That's a cool concept.
Now, me summing it up tightens up that story a lot.
Sure.
You know, like the actual execution of it is a 30-minute 1950s kids show.
Sure.
But there's a lot in there that's really interesting. And the idea of his inherent goodness and the being heroic is as much of a superpower for him as the powers are.
Yeah.
That is such a fucking great story. And the idea of, like, even at the beginning, when he knows he's Superman, before he stops the meteor, a scientist tries to stop him by going, you don't know what that thing could do to you. On Earth, you're Superman. Who knows what that fucking thing is?
Fair.
And he's like, I still got to do it. Like, Panic in the Sky is one of those, like, I don't think it's got the prestige of other big moments or whatever. But I would put that up there as like a sort of like, it's a real anchor point of understanding the character of Superman, which is you do the good thing because it's the right thing to do, because if you don't, maybe no one else will, and also just because you should.
Yeah. And
it's not, and it's part of his nature. It's not just that the Kents raised him. It's that Superman is
inherently
super good.
Yeah.
You know, like he just knows it in his core. And George Reeves does a pretty good job in that episode of that. The stuff that's weaker performance wise is like, act like someone who has no memory. Like, whoa.
Sure, yeah.
Like, that's the weaker stuff. The stuff where he's like, do you think he's like talking to Jimmy? He's like, I think I found Superman's suit. Do you think this gives him his power? And Jimmy's like, I'm pretty sure Superman told me he has the powers. He's like, well, I gotta try.
Yeah.
And it's a guy that doesn't even know that he's Clark, you know, let alone Superman. I think that stuff's fucking great. So yeah, Panic in the Sky is probably one of the better episodes of the show, just generally.
Nice. Next question comes from Yuman Rossi, who asks...
Yeoman.
Cool.
It's a naval rank, or position, rather.
Yeoman. Chill.
They have yeoman on, Star Trek.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard it.
Yeah. There's a couple of named yeomen in the original series. I think there's at least one in TNG. You hear them every once in a while. There's a yeoman. They're like the enlisted one, not like the officers, right? Because like officers only go down to ensign or whatever, but then there's like the enlisted, just crew, general crew, you know.
What do you think? What do you rank his Clark portrayal among live action versions?
So the things that I like about George Reeves' Clark, I do like his little like charming little winky like, well, I don't know, Lois, maybe I'm just not strong enough.
Yeah.
Like he's so fucking charming. I love that kind of stuff. He's a relatively tenacious reporter. The thing he doesn't do as Clark is he's not as like, oh, I'm Clark.
Thank God.
You know what I mean? Like he's not like tough, but he's just like regular.
Sure.
You know? Which is more again in line. Well, actually that's not true. The Golden Age Clark in Action Comics #1, Lois calls him like a sniveling spineless worm or something like that, right? Because he's like, oh no, maybe just let the mobsters take it, like, which is great in that issue because you also get the thought bubble of like, I need to keep up the appearance or whatever, and that's also part of his like sacrifice is like he could just be himself and Lois would like him, but instead he has to know that Lois only likes the one part of him, and he kind of puts, I mean, the Clark is overemphasized there. The more modern version where Clark and Superman are closer to being one thing is a better version of Superman. But if we're taking for granted these things that like there's a secret identity and George Reeves just plays a regular Clark, which I kind of like. That's interesting. That's good. But because of that, there's not as much of a transformation. His transformation is more about how he talks. Superman kind of talks like this, you know. Don't worry, get out of there. And Clark talks more like a regular guy. Whereas you've probably seen that clip, the Christopher Reeve one, where he takes the glasses off, he straightens up, he like literally transforms in like 3 seconds. It's like it's some of the best acting put to film.
Wow,
is Christopher Reeve going from Clark to Superman by taking his glasses off and it's like straightening up, like totally different body posture. His whole demeanor shifts. It's really powerful, like physical acting. George Reeves doesn't do that. So you miss the dynamic shift there. But I don't like snivelly Clark as much as I like just regular Clark. Yeah. So that's kind of like the weird balancy thing there. I actually think like Cavill and George Reeves are more similar that way because their Clark is not that far off.
Sure.
Other than just keeping a secret. Like the Christopher Reeve one is like Clark is a character.
Yeah.
Right? So I actually think Cavill and Reeves are closer that way. The weird thing with Tom Welling, the Smallville one, is he really doesn't have a public Superman.
No, because he never becomes Superman
until the end of the show. And what do they always call him? He's the blur or the whatever, the
blue streak.
You barely ever see him. So he doesn't really have a hero persona. So he's kind of not in that conversation. Although I guess we're talking about Clark's. But there is an element of Clark, which is his relationship to Superman, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and rank some Clarks here. I think I like. I like Welling's Clark
Yeah.
for what it is.
I mean,
young Clark.
yeah.
He's learning. He's putting it together.
It makes sense for that version of him.
That version in that context. I like Welling's Clark.
Yeah.
Dean Cain's Clark is nothing.
No.
Dean, and
Fuck
not
Dean
just
Cain.
because Dean Cain is a piece of shit, but that's also part of it. Cavill's Clark is pretty milquetoast, but at least it's not. He's not like. It's not false. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Christopher Reeve one is really good, but it is
A little
cartoonish.
Yeah.
You know, but as a performance and as like he's great as Clark. I think George Reeves is up there. Oh man, who's my favorite Clark? Fuck.
Clarks.
My favorite Clark might be Tyler Hoechlin. It might be
Wow.
Superman and Lois.
Sure, he's a great Clark.
And because he kind of toes the line between George Reeves and Christopher Reeves in that his Clark is different from Superman. It's not like Cavill where it's like the only difference is what suit I'm wearing.
Sure.
Like there is a difference when he's being Clark, where he's like in town talking to people.
A lot more G-golly.
A little more G-golly and stuff like that, and I like that, and that feels a little bit like Christopher Reeve, but he's not like sniveling. He's not like a little like weasel,
No.
But then there's those moments. There's that clip that keeps going around of like you touch my boy again, like
Sure,
that one, and the guy goes to push him and can't or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. Like I think he does a really good job. He's probably my favorite.
Yeah,
Clark.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very good Superman too. I think you could make a really strong argument that Tyler Hoechlin's the best one.
Wow. A little too skinny for me, but
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to beat Christopher Reeve as Superman.
yeah.
But as the whole package, Tyler Hoechlin's way up there.
Okay, so Tyler Hoechlin. You're ranking them.
For Clarks?
Yeah.
Tyler Hoechlin, Welling, Christopher Reeve, George Reeve, Cavill, Cain.
Wow. Cavill's that low.
But Cavill's Clark.
Routh?
Routh. Routh's Clark is higher up.
Sure.
It's near the top.
Sure.
Yeah, but like really think about Cavill's Clark.
Yeah.
I like Cavill as Superman, but really let's think about his Clark.
Sure.
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And you go like, it's just him wearing plaid. It's not like a character.
Fair, yeah.
His
yeah,
Clark
yeah.
basically doesn't exist.
Yes. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Last question. From the moral compass of the Doc scored, how high is too high for a trouser's waistline?
Oh man, in the 50s, no such thing.
God, I mean, I wish that we had that now. I love a fucking high waist.
It would probably be easier for me to get pants.
Because that would have to go pretty high.
Well, no. But the thing is, if I cinch it up here, this helps hold it up. The hardest thing with having a gut is that my pants are actually thinner than my gut, so it actually pushes pants down.
Oh,
so it's
sure.
actually harder to keep them on. Like, because even
Yeah,
a belt doesn't do, like.
You would have to go. That's really high, though.
I'd be like Carl Fredrickson, and
That's like,
up.
yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
how high that would need to be.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if they ever got that high.
No, his didn't, but some fucking suspenders. One of those like just short ties, like
Yeah.
a comically short tie.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
You're talking about up, yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, again, like I said, I think the look of George Reeves as Clark with that double-breasted suit and the hat and the really broad shoulders and that, like, that's your fucking Tim Sale
Hell yeah.
Clark. Like, if you haven't seen a picture of it, just like look it up. You'd be like, oh shit, they did do it. They did
Yeah.
it right. It's this.
Yeah.
He's maybe not quite as like he's obviously not like the weird proportion of
Yeah.
Tim Sale's one, but I think it gets the spirit of it right.
Hell yeah.
Like decades before Tim Sale did it.
Sure.
He might be riffing on this
Could
for
be.
all we know, Yeah. The fashion. I think the crazier fashion is like Lois always with the fucking hats. You know those hats that are like small hats, but then your hair comes
Sure,
out.
yeah.
Like that sort of 50. It's not quite a fascinator, but it's too small to be a real hat.
Yeah.
They're like little boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, her style's weird. Jimmy's always wearing a bow tie, but that's just like classic Jimmy now.
Oh, yeah. That's the version I know of.
Yeah. Or the alternate version of Jimmy, which is shot in the face in the middle of the desert.
Jesus. Or the version that we got on Supergirl.
Yeah. Cool ass Jimmy.
Yeah. That's James.
That's a James. Yeah. Call me Father Olsen.
Yeah. Fucking what?
I don't know. I was going to say call me Daddy, but I was like, that's not a pun on anything.
Nope. Kind of Jimmy Daddy, I guess.
Yeah.
At least they end in a Y.
I'm going to Jimmy a Daddy in there. Anyway. Yeah. High waistlines.
Yeah.
Old
As long as it's
fashioned.
under your nipples, you're fine.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Those are the questions that we had about George Reeves.
Baby.
We would love to hear from you residents if you have a question for next week's episode.
So next week's episode, we are talking about, and
Christopher Reeves.
Well, just know I am borrowing the naming convention we've used for other movie universe episodes. We've done the Nolan verse.
So this is
We did the Burton Schumacher verse.
this
That's
is
shared
the
universe.
Reevaverse.
Well, no, but those are all directors. So we are doing
Oh my
the
God.
Donner Lester guy I can't remember singer verse.
Okay.
So the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I guess we could throw Supergirl in there too, technically, because Jimmy is in that. Jimmy from the Christopher Reeve ones is in that.
Okay.
So the Christopher Reeve Supermans, Supergirl, and Superman Returns with Brandon Routh.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. That's next week, baby. Wow. And that Brandon Routh one, that also includes him coming back in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
So you can talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah. Well, him in that. I mean, I want to talk about like that world, that idea of the character, that the stuff.
I only want questions about Crisis on Infinite.
Yeah, do you know what? Let's just talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths.
What a way to shit on that.
I know you voted for this, but I want this. I found a way to make it happen.
Technically, it's worth it.
So there you go.
Well, you can send those questions to our various social media platforms.
That's right. Dr. DC Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Threads.
Blue
I think we're
Sky.
at Dr. DC on Blue Sky and
Just look us up
TikTok.
on the fucking platforms. It's fine.
r/Dr_DC on Reddit.
The doc phone is always open.
208-917-3238. That's 208. Oh, okay. I thought we were going to keep going. 208-917-DCEU if you're nasty. Keep that up. I'm going to get there.
We've got a website, drdcpodcast.com or
.ca. Just did a totally visual joke.
Give us a 5-star review and we'll read it on a future episode. And if you want more content, well, you can subscribe to our Patreon.
That's right. Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Discord, our awesome Discord fan community. And at the higher levels, you get weekly bonus episodes, theme pulls, all sorts of fun stuff that helps to support us,
including our other podcast,
Ghost Facer. Well, no, has nothing to do with the Patreon, actually. So it's not including.
Well, I know you
it's
just stopped, so I was like, I guess we're moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah. So, but you said like support us, including our other podcast, which it supports by funding us, our ability to make podcasts.
No, I think you did it bad.
That's an easier narrative for me.
Yeah. It's an easier narrative for me to swallow than Taylor Swift shooting down Prigozhin.
Or Clem.
Hey, you got to listen to Ghost Facers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show.
And Clem.
You
want that juice, baby.
Hey, say no more. They'll have to listen.
That's right. If you want blood science,
yeah,
go there.
If you want to actually learn stuff after we're done talking,
yeah,
listen to Ghost Facers.
That's it for this week.
Adios.
Ciao, ciao.
Fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.